Yeah, absolutely.
Well, good morning and welcome to City Hall. We'll get started with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Mike Murphy is here from Meridian Avenue Baptist Church. The pastor will lead us in the invocation. Afterwards, I'll ask Councilman Skip Kelly to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please stand?
Our Heavenly Father, today we pause. We acknowledge your presence in this place, God. We thank you for being here with us. Father, ours is a society based on elections, and God, those are going on as we speak. And Father, we pray that your will would be done in each and every one of those situations, in each one of those elections. Father, we're reminded as people of faith that we are to pray for our leaders. Father, we ask today that you would grant wisdom to this council. Father, that you would empower them, that you would speak to them, that you would minister through them, God. That's our prayer today. Father, we acknowledge that we do trust in you. But Father, most importantly, we acknowledge that you are our God, and we do trust in you, Father. We pray, God, for this council, our mayor, that you would give them the wisdom of Solomon, the patience of Job today, God, as they look in these items of agenda. But most importantly, Father, we pray today that your will would be done in each heart and each life. We thank you for loving us, caring for us, providing for us a great city and this great council, Father. We pray, God, that you would bless us and use us. We pray in all the power and all the majesty. In the name of Jesus, our Lord and our Savior. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amanda Meyer to join me in front of the congregation. Yes, Amanda is with Oklahoma City University. She's a graduate student studying opera, and she is here to sing one of the songs that she'll be performing this weekend at Oklahoma City University. We are so proud of all of the performers at Oklahoma City University, and they attract students from all over the country, including Amanda, who is originally from
Omaha, Nebraska.
And your undergraduate work?
Boston University.
And now you're in Oklahoma City University perfecting your craft.
Yes, love it here. It's great.
All right, and tell us about the opera that we're about to hear a song from.
Sure. Let's see. The opera, it goes up this weekend. It's Friday and Saturday at 8, Sunday at 3. It's a comedy by German composer Albert Lortzing. And just to give you a brief synopsis, it's about a young baron who runs away from home to escape an arranged marriage. Along the way in his travels, he comes upon a house with a count, countess, and a beautiful young daughter. He decides to stay there and court the daughter, but unbeknownst to him, this is the very woman that he is supposed to marry. I play in the opera, I play the daughter's maid, and I'm the first one to discover the identity of the young baron, and I come up with a plot to reveal the identity in a way that assures that the couple will be able to get married as they are supposed to.
Sounds complicated.
It's a little complicated, but,
Well,
but it's funny.
I'm sure it's going to be wonderful, and I'm sure it'll be humorous too.
Yes,
Would you like the microphone?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I respectfully decline.
I assumed you would. Amanda Meyer.
Strange thing for every woman and man. We try to alter and the fate as deftly as we can, and scarcely all alone begun to warm our hearts, when suddenly the winds of change blow our dreams apart. It's puzzled people for ages what they want to do. But destiny knows the answer. It knows what's best for you. So I know a truth, a secret unfurled, as destiny rules the world. A secret unfurled, as destiny rules the world. Looks like you don't believe me. Well, listen to this. A boy once was in sailing, if I should choose a girl. She must be full of youth and fire, and lovely as a dainty girl. But did he keep his vow, you'll ask me? Who's the one that he chose? It was an old coquettish spinster, and to her millions he was not opposed. That's what a man, a good man, he must follow every word I say. I will insist that she obey me. If she refuses, I make her pay. He wouldn't dare to break his vow. But you say it didn't keep. In the market he carries her basket, and lets the cradled white baby sleep. Destiny's a strange thing for every woman and man. We try to alter the hand of fate as deftly as we can, and scarcely all alone begun to warm our hearts, when suddenly the winds of change blow our dreams apart. But I know the truth, a secret unfurled, as destiny rules the world. A secret unfurled, as destiny rules the world. I once believed that older man would be the husband for me, with all the world in ring, and grow up and surely wealthy be. It suddenly occurred to me that would be so good. I'd rather have a young rich man. It could Destiny did not change my plan. I changed it all.
Thank you so much. Tell us again how we can see this performance.
Sure. It is this weekend, Friday and Saturday, March 4th and 5th at 8 p.m., Sunday, March 6th at 3 p.m. Tickets can be purchased through our box office at 405-208-5227 or online at www.okcu.edu/ticket office. We hope to see some of you there. It would be wonderful. It's a great show.
I'm certainly it is. One more round of applause for Amanda. Thank you very much. We're now going to have our OKC Sooner or Later Day proclamation. I'm going to ask a list of people to come forward. Francis Kersey, Catherine Montgomery, Keith Bryant, Pete White, Kathy O'Connor, Steve Lackmeyer, Buddy Johnson, Debbie Martin, Christy Yeager, Zach Nash, Marcia Ingersoll, Mike Nettleton, Janice Pulliam, Mickey Graham. This is a group of people who care a great deal about Oklahoma City and especially its history. And we are trying to gather certain historical items to put on display here at City Hall. This has been many months, if not over a year, in the making, and these people have worked behind the scenes very, very hard on this. They come from a wide range of civic opportunities, and we have a resolution that I would ask that's a proclamation, I guess, actually, but I'll ask the substitute clerk, Charlotte, if you'll read this, please.
All right, thank you. Whereas March 1st, 2011 is the 74th anniversary of the opening of City Hall, and in celebration of the anniversary, the Oklahoma City Sooner or Later History Exhibit will open on Tuesday, March 1st, 2011. And whereas the permanent exhibit of the history of Oklahoma City government tells the story of the people, their ideas, and events that happened along the way to today, and whereas residents, school children, scholars, and tourists will learn about the strength of character, determination, courage, and work ethic that helped form Oklahoma City, and whereas the exhibit will periodically highlight a city's department history with artifacts and historic documents, and whereas the Oklahoma City Sooner or Later exhibit was made possible by a grant from the Oklahoma Humanities Council and the We the People initiative of the National Endowment for the Humanities, and whereas the City of Oklahoma City matched the grant funds and partnered with the Metropolitan Library System, Oklahoma Historical Society, Oklahoma Publishing Company, Oklahoma City Museum of Art, and Retro Metro OKC, and whereas previous and current mayors, council members, city managers, and city employees donated funds to ensure a quality exhibit, and whereas the mayor and council would like to thank the exhibit committee members Francis Kersey, Catherine Montgomery, Keith Bryant, Pete White, Catherine O'Connor, Steve Lackmeyer, Larry Buddy Johnson, Debbie Martin, Kathy Wrights, Christy Yeager, Zach Nash, Marcia Ingersoll, Mike Nettleton, Janice Pulliam, and Mickey Graham for their time, dedication, and contributions to the project. Now, therefore, I, Mick Cornett, Mayor of the City of Oklahoma City, do hereby proclaim March 1st, 2011 as Oklahoma City Sooner or Later Day.
Let's show our appreciation. It is a little odd handing a proclamation to the city clerk because she helped write it and signed it, and then I present it to her as if she's never seen it before. So, Francis, if you want to explain a little bit further about how people can come down and enjoy all these wonderful documents and things that are going to be made available.
Okay, Mayor, yes, today's an exciting day. Today's the day we're going to share with the public the history of Oklahoma City government. The exhibit opens to the public at 2 o'clock, and it'll be open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 after that. A self-guided tour, and it's free. So please come down and see the exhibit. At 1 o'clock, the Oklahoma City Public School children will be here to help the mayor and council unveil the exhibit. And I would like to thank, I tell you, my story is it takes a small village to tell the story of a big city. And it did. I mean, without the print shop and the employees in the city clerk's office and building management, I mean, I can't thank everybody enough for helping us get this together for the opening today.
What are some of the highlights, Francis?
Well, first of all, we're going to highlight, you'll be able to see exactly what all the symbols mean in the city seal. We're going to highlight all of the city managers since 1927. We have pictures, we have documents of some of the first contracts of buying some of the fire equipment, the fire hose, and a fire vehicle. Chief Bryant is going to, at noon today, bring in the 1910 first fire vehicle purchased by Oklahoma City. It will be on the east side of City Hall. And we also have Councilman Marr's grandfather's Class A uniform on a mannequin downstairs for display. We also have a 2010 bunker gear firefighter. So there's something for everybody in the exhibit, and we are highlighting the fire department with a lot of their artifacts.
Anybody else like to speak? All right, let's show our appreciation. Thank you all. And again, it starts today at 1 o'clock at City Hall. Thank you. Thank you all very much. You bet, Steve. Thanks. Thank you. Pete, can I goad you into talking once you get back about this? Because I know you love the city's history as much as any of us. And I'd love to hear more about this. The pitch and the group, if you would speak to the group itself, but I'm stalling for time here until Pete can get his microphone on. Yeah.
A little bit of background on it. This started 3 or 4 years ago when I asked the city clerk to think about what we might do to utilize that wonderful space that's down on the second floor that has kind of come as the city has changed the use of the building. That used to be where people came to pay their water bills and so forth, and it needed that extra space. Now it's just a great expanse there in this wonderful old building that was very underutilized, I thought. And we discussed different ideas about putting documents up on the wall, and this idea just kind of grew from that. The funding, the grant funding, of course, made it possible. Although there were donations from lots of people, I think everyone on this horseshoe is a contributor to that. Lots of former council members, former mayors, former city managers to contribute the money to do it. What my original idea was that we would make this building, which I think is a wonderful building, those of us that work here and even people that visit it, I think can't help but be struck by the fact of what a wonderful building it is. I wanted to put this building on the map of things that when you came to Oklahoma City, you came to see this building because it is a wonderful building. This chamber is a great place, and so we thought that having that exhibit down there and making it rotate a little bit would enhance people's ability and perhaps their desire to come see this building. We hope to change as time goes on. We hope to emphasize different functions of the city. We could do the same thing for the Civic Center. We could do it for the police department. We can do it for Public Works. There are a lot of other departments that have artifacts and have a history to tell that won't be as well explained today as they will be as the project moves forward. So we hope it to be a living project, and in fact my idea now is that once the artifacts are gathered like these fire artifacts are, that we will find a place to display them permanently. In fire, I think the hope is, or at least my hope, is that the fire station in Bricktown the new one, will have space to show off some of these artifacts. We can do the same thing at the Civic Center and some of the other places. And so it'll just make the history of Oklahoma City a little more accessible to people that come here. It's been a real, I've enjoyed it, and I can't say enough about all the people that have participated. It's been that experience has been rewarding also.
And 1 o'clock today is when we get our first public viewing of it.
Is that more than you wanted?
Hope to be there. That's perfect. Exactly the length I was looking for. All right, we now want to honor our Employee of the Month, Mike Murphy. I'm sorry, not Mike Murphy. Tom Edwards. Mike Murphy was the pastor who gave us our invocation earlier. Tom Edwards, come forward. Tom, thank you very much. Tom is with the Finance Department. Can you imagine, out of 4,300 or so city employees, choosing one each month? But the South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club helps us do that and helps us honor one Employee of the Month. And you know, I've always wondered where all the money goes. We found the guy because Tom, as you're going to learn, is in the buyer in the procurement services division of the Finance Department. So every time we put up green lights, Tom goes to work and makes purchases on our behalf. We have a resolution. You want to help me hold that? I'll ask the clerk to read it as we get settled.
Whereas Thomas Edwards has been a city employee for 15 years and is a buyer in the Procurement Services Division of the Finance Department. And whereas Thomas Edwards took the initiative to create several access databases that pull together system information the buyers frequently use to streamline purchasing processes, consequently saving time and making the workflow more efficient. Whereas Tom created a database for reporting IRS Form 1099, which cut the process time approximately 70%, saving the city time and money. Whereas Tom also created a database from the ProCard and PeopleSoft systems for the buyers to use for updates, quotes, contracts, and more, which streamlined the purchase review process. Whereas Thomas Edwards made several training videos, such as how to search for council agenda items and how to bid city contracts the other departments can use. The video was made for vendors to explain how to bid, who to contact, and how to check the city's website for items out for bid. Whereas Thomas Edwards is an innovative employee with the motivation and willingness to go the extra mile to make the best use of city resources. And whereas this council desires to recognize Thomas Edwards for his dedication, professionalism, and commitment to the citizens of Oklahoma City. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council of the city of Oklahoma City that they do hereby thank and commend Thomas Edwards, March 2011, South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club Employee of the Month.
All right, Tom, now the suspense of whether or not we can get 5 votes for you to be Employee of the Month. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. And it's unanimous. Let's show our appreciation, Tom.
Thank you, and I would like to thank my workers in procurement services. They're truly a wonderful group of people, and they are worthy of my best efforts, and thank you.
Tom, thanks very much. We really appreciate it. We are on item 4 of the council agenda. This is the Journal of Council Proceedings. Item 4A is to receive the Journal of Council Proceedings for February 22nd. And item B is to approve the Journal of Council Proceedings for February 15th. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions about the Journal? All right, cast your votes. And it passes unanimously. Item 5 is request for uncontested continuances.
I have none this morning, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else have a request for an uncontested continuance? Then we'll recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. There is one item. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the EAT? All right, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCEAT and reconvene the council meeting with the consent docket. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any individual consideration? All right, silence is golden. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes on the consent docket. Passed unanimously. Nothing on the concurrence docket today, which gets us to item 8. These are items that require a separate vote. We start with a series of zoning cases. The first is in Ward 6. It's an ABC issue at 1503 Southwest 29th Street. Meg?
Thank you, Mayor. Is the applicant here already? Well, I went and looked at the location yesterday. It's very appropriate request for the site, and there were no protests at the Planning Commission, so I would move approval.
Second.
Are you Maria?
I'm Maria.
You are welcome to speak, but it sounds like it's going to go your way.
Okay, if we can get an emergency.
Okay.
Okay.
Why don't, let's vote on
Let's
the
vote
item
first.
first, and then we can deal with the emergency.
Okay.
Anybody here wishing to speak against item 8A1? All right, cast your votes. The item passes unanimously.
And then I would request the emergency, please.
All right. Megan's requests the emergency. Anybody else want to comment on the emergency aspect of this case? All right, cast your votes, and it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria,
Thank
for
you so
coming
much.
down.
Good luck, Maria.
I'm sorry, come on back up. The emergency pass, was that your concern?
But where do we go to do that? Back to the,
I bet Bob can help.
Just go over to the 9th floor, 420, and they'll tell you what to do.
okay, thank you
All right,
so much.
thank you. 9th floor has all the answers. All right. Item 8A2 is in Ward 3. It's another ABC issue. The address is 4700 West Reno Avenue. Larry?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Is the applicant present?
We do have one person that has signed up to speak, but it says only if necessary.
Okay. How about telling our folks, you get 30 seconds for a free commercial of what you intend to do here?
Yes.
Would you tell us your name and address, please, first?
Adel Messini, and address is 4700 West Reno Avenue,
Okay.
Oklahoma City.
And Councilman McAtee was asking you what you intend to do with this property.
My request is if I can get like a license in emergency.
You're asking for the emergency?
Yes.
Okay, I think first he's asking for the use and the operations, giving you an opportunity to tell people in Ward 3 what you're going to be operating in the facility. What are you going to be doing there?
Well, beer and wine and liquor to sell.
Okay.
Well, I was going to give you a chance to give a commercial of what kind of a restaurant you were going to have there.
It's already there, Italian restaurant.
Italian restaurant?
Yes.
With great food?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I wanted you to say,
Oh, I'm
okay?
sorry.
Nobody has signed up against it, have they?
No.
Okay, I'll move for approval.
All right, we're voting on item 8A2. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously.
And then I can make a recommendation, we approve the emergency.
All right, cast your votes, and that also passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you.
Item 8A3 is a zoning case in Ward 8. It's also an ABC2 issue. This address is 5950 West Memorial Road. Pat?
Thank you, Your Honor. Did anybody, excuse me, did anybody sign up to speak on this one? Is the applicant here? Okay. Well, this is a hideaway restaurant in an area that is developing rapidly into a commercial district in the vicinity of MacArthur and Memorial. There is a restaurant right next door to it, so it's consistent with what's going on out there. I would move approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 8A3. Cast your votes, and it passes unanimously.
And, Your Honor, consistent with what we've done before, I would like to ask for the emergency on this one also.
All right, we'll cast your votes on the emergency, and it also is passed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, 8A4 is a zoning case in Ward 2. The addresses are 2940 and 2944 Northwest 30th Street. It's currently R1 single-family residential. It would change to R2 medium-low-density residential district. Stan?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a vacant infill duplex property. It's in conformance with the plan and no protest at the Planning Commission. We need an easement on this today, Bob, and you have it. Is there any protest here this morning? Move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 8A4. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 8A5 is a zoning case in Ward 3. The address is 3308 Southwest 44th Street. It's currently C3 Community Commercial. It would become an R4 General Residential District. Larry?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Francis, anybody signed up to speak on this? This is to bring the zoning in compliance with what's going on out there. This apartment complex has been out there for a number of years. The zoning needs to be changed to make it compatible. With no objection, I move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 8A5. Any comments or questions on this item? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 8A6 is a zoning case in Ward 2. The address is 1112 Northwest 58th Street. It's currently R1 single family, and it would become a simplified plan unit development district. And Sam, we have one person that signed up to speak.
Mayor, if we might, on behalf of Chesapeake, if either Dennis Box or Tim Johnson or both would just give us a pitch as to where we are, and then I know Rob Littlefield has a few comments following.
Dennis Box and Tim Johnson, we've been here before on behalf of Chesapeake, and we're here today on property at 58th Street. Dan Ladon, who is the person in charge in regard to right-of-way, is here. If you all have any questions of him, I would say that with regard to the neighbors, Susan Reed is here, and Rob Littlefield. They have played a significant role in resolving any issues that came about with the neighborhood. This is a success story. We have Class and Curve, which was approved a couple of years ago. It has done very, very well. We need additional parking, and this will provide for that. So we're here to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Dennis on this item?
Tim, were you going to add anything, or Dan, before? Rob?
Good morning. Rob Littlefield, 1148 Northwest 56th Street. I'm president of the Meadowbrook Acres Neighborhood Association, and today is a profoundly cool event for this neighborhood. This is not just about a parking lot. It's about a neighborhood that has worked for 6 years, 6 hard years, to try to identify our boundaries and offer a canvas in Oklahoma City for really tremendous new residential projects in a very old neighborhood that regards the existing homes in that neighborhood from as far back as 1924. We've appreciated very much Chesapeake Energy's development on our boundaries, and today we appreciate very much their recognition of this balance of this neighborhood as something valuable for the city. The other comment that I would like to make is it also expresses the absolute importance and value of organized neighborhood associations in this city. It also shows how valuable you folks are in your recognition of the work that neighborhoods try to do. Thank you very much, Councilman Bowman, for your efforts, and we hope you'll approve this. Thank you.
Mayor, if I might, just for a few minutes. This is an unusual and extraordinary, in my time on the council, relationship between neighborhood and developer. As Rob said, some 6 years ago, Chesapeake was not involved at that time, but I met early on with Rob Littlefield and a couple of neighbors, and Jack Karchmer at that time, who owned and had been assembling for the past 20 years most of the property that's now Class and Curve, old Military Avenue. We met early with him with the understanding that something was going to take place. Either Jack was going to develop it himself or it was going to move to a higher form of development. And it was conveyed at that early time to Jack Karchmer that if he did choose to sell it, would he convey to the developer that the neighborhood was very intent and interested in working hand in hand with whomever purchased that property. From the very outset, even before Chesapeake's involvement, not as a matter of protest, but as a matter of finding a way to work hand in hand with however be developed. When it was learned it was Chesapeake, met early with Dan LaDon, and these meetings have been going on for nearly 5 years in the pre-development and then through several stages of Class and Curve. You know, it's a little bohemian-type neighborhood, very unusual in this city. It reminds me of some of the little enclaves in New Orleans. I just love the little place. Little modest frame homes for the most part on nice-sized lots. And the intent has always been to encourage the kind of development that Chesapeake would do, know that it might be the Rand Elliott red and glass might be entirely contradictory to the homes that were in there, and that was fine. It was fine aesthetically and in every way, just understanding that let's find a way to preserve, as we do that, the integrity and the balance and the harmony of that little residential neighborhood, starting with prohibiting from the beginning no vehicular access through there. And Chesapeake has abided by that. That's part of this SPUD, and it will be to the conclusion. So over this period of 4 or 5 years, Rob Littlefield, Susan Reed, and it's been the neighborhood. It engaged in a way that I have not been engaged with a neighborhood in my time on this city council, with give and take. And it hasn't been all roses. I mean, there's been contention. There's been issues back and forth. But it's always been with the idea that we are moving together in some kind of balanced and planned way that will honor the development of Chesapeake and at the same time honor the integrity and protection of this residential neighborhood. And what we have today that is not for our approval, but is party to this zoning case is a covenant, an agreement between Chesapeake and the neighborhood that officially and legally between these two parties just signs an official and provides an official line of demarcation between the commercial developments and the residential, and the integrity to respect that residential from henceforward. So I am appreciative of Tim and Dennis, Dan Ladon, Rob, Susie, the neighbors that have just struggled, I think, in a historic way to make planning and development, taking in consideration the neighborhood, its very best in that I've seen in Oklahoma City. I want to just add, before I make the motion, that there's been issues of drainage in that area. This is south, the little neighborhood is just south of the Classen Curve and west of Western, tucked in there, 58th, 57th, 56th Street. There have been drainage issues in there for years. It was a matter of discussion, considerable discussion at the Planning Commission, and it has been resolved that this drainage issue, it's recognized, it's real, it exists, but it is not caused by the current Chesapeake Spud Classen Curve development, nor will it be exacerbated by the approval of this Spud. But it does exist, and it is the responsibility of the city. So I've just talked with the city manager since the Planning Commission, and he's talked with Public Works, and I've asked that a resolution be brought forward separate from this Spud next Tuesday that will address the remediation of that drainage problem in a reasonable time. So that I've asked for next week. But saying all that, again, appreciate the work these past years on both sides for a job well done, and as Dennis says, a true success story. And in that flavor, move for approval of this Spud.
All right, voting on item 8A6. Any other comments or questions on this item? Cast your votes. Passed unanimously.
Mayor, I know all the council have been involved in zoning cases in the past. You take great interest in it. You put a lot of time and effort in it. But Mr. Bowman's been a true statesman in this process. He's put a lot of time and effort. He's talked to both sides independently and together. And I think as he's leaving office here in the next few weeks, we're really going to miss his statesmanship as he's brought forth.
I would second that, and I would say thank you very much, not only on this project, but all projects. But on this project, I think you've underplayed the significance that you have had in bringing the parties together to make this a successful matter. So we would ask for the emergency. Thank you.
Okay. Cast your votes on the emergency for item 8A6. Passed unanimously. Item 8B is a special permit requested to operate a residential drug and alcohol treatment facility for women. It's in Ward 5 at 301 West I-240 Service Road. Brian?
This facility has actually been here for about 6 years, and as the supplement indicates, basically a routine inquiry found that they needed a special permit. And so it's not anything out of the ordinary, it's just basically administrative cleanup with it. There was no protest at Planning Commission. I don't believe we have any here today. Eric, do you want to speak to anything?
Yes, very briefly, Mayor, for the record, my name is Eric Groves. I'm an attorney. I represent Jordan's Crossing. This is an effort to bring Jordan's Crossing into compliance with the proper zoning ordinance. Planning staff determined that although the land was zoned R4, it really needed to be overlaid with a special permit for this particular kind of facility, a residential facility for women and children. And so we applied for one, and the Planning Commission approved it unanimously. There's no protest. Staff recommended approval. And if we do this, the zoning laws will be appropriate to the property. So it's really, as Councilman said, a cleanup of a zoning situation.
And as far as I know, there's been no complaints on the facility in the past 6 years.
No. Very effective and efficient operation.
Are there any questions?
Sort of a mechanical question. How long does a special permit last? Will they have to renew this periodically, or is this good for as long as they operate the facility?
It's as good as long as the operation's in effect. If they go out of business for a year, it would expire.
Okay.
So some we put time limits on, but there's no need to do that, in our opinion, in this case.
Good.
But, Brian, if I might, I have this great temptation, Counselor, to require you to tell us all the reasons this is such a good idea to do this, because I'd like to get them on tape so that the next time one of these comes and you're on the other side of it, I'll be able to put that back to you.
Well, Councilman White?
This is, I will tell you, first of all, from my knowledge, this place has been out of compliance for a long time. And it wasn't just a recent discovery. But be that as it may, it's operated for all these years without any problems at all. It has saved countless people's lives, as all these do in Oklahoma City. I would challenge anyone to find one of these facilities that operates that has problems. They don't have problems. They have problems on the front end with people around. There is a protest, by the way. I got one in the mail this morning. It was laid on my desk. But it's the standard protest. The protest is that this is a family area, and I guess drugs and alcohol are not family diseases. I'm not quite I never understand these protests. Eric and I have had this discussion about other matters, and I would, Eric, have you ever had a protest to any of these?
Councilman White, in my career, I have never once been hired, or have I ever protested on behalf of anyone, a facility such as this. I have never agreed to represent anyone who protested a facility such as this or a group home for Alzheimer's patients or anything like that. And the reason I have never done that is because I, like you, believe in these facilities and the good things they do for the community. They're absolutely essential.
Is this meeting being taped?
And also, Councilman, I'll tell you, if anyone were to come to me in the future, I would decline that representation. I wouldn't feel right about objecting to something that does as much good as this facility does. So.
Well, as most of you know, this industry, the drug and alcohol thing, is a personal passion of mine. I mean, I've been involved in it for a long time, beginning with the First Step involvement back in the 80s, carrying on through now, involvement with Detox, involvement with other agencies that provide this kind of service. And what I'm struck with is that there are generally protests like the one we have today on the front side of all of them. I've yet to see a meaningful protest to any of them after they're in and that includes those that house people that are court-ordered to be there, as this facility does. Some of these people may be convicted of a crime, but they're as a way to avoid long-term incarceration, they're ordered to this kind of a treatment program, which is a much better use of our tax money than to lock them up in jails, as we've seen recent publicity opposing that in the newspaper recently. We've seen a lot of that. This kind of program is what saves people's lives and avoids the huge costs of incarceration. We need more of these. We need more public acceptance and understanding of what these are about and the good that they do for society. I want to second your motion to approve this, Brian. But I do want to, I can't help but use it as an opportunity to talk again about how important these programs are and how much the city needs these, and how much it'll save the taxpayers if we would look at this as an alternative to incarceration. And I appreciate you being on this side, Eric.
Glad to be here, Pete.
All right. We're ready to vote on item 8B.
I make a motion to approve it.
Second. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously.
Mayor, emergency?
I would hate to break the trend.
Okay.
Move the emergency.
Cast your votes. A lot
Thank
of
you, Mayor.
emergencies today.
Thank all of you.
Item 8C is a bond sale.
We've discussed this previously. This is this year's bond sale. I do want to point out that we did meet with the rating agencies the week before last and received affirmation from both Standard & Poor's and Moody's of our AAA rating for this debt.
Okay, comments or questions?
I just asked the city manager to point out this is a somewhat lower number than we've done in past years.
It is a lower number than was anticipated, and it's because of the lower growth rate in the assessed value than was anticipated when we put this program together back in '07.
And unfortunately, that will have the impact of slowing down our bond process slightly.
It is.
And last year, we sold how many dollars worth of bonds?
$64 million.
So this is significantly lower than what we had.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we're voting on item 8C. This item is just being introduced today.
Mayor?
Yes,
Real
Larry.
quick. Jim, you kind of glossed up. A piece came out from Christy Yeager's office yesterday concerning the bond rating, did it not?
It did.
Could you just, for the record, speak to that, what they found and why they gave us the rating they did, and then what the benefit to the citizens is for that rating?
Be happy to do that. Yeah, we have been, as of last year, we became AAA debt, or AAA rated city, and that's the highest rating that you can receive. And what that will do for us is the higher the rating is, when you go and issue this debt, the lower the interest rate will be. So we have the highest rating, which means we'll get the lowest interest rate. Having the lowest interest rate means that we will be able to issue, because we keep our mill levy the same, so we'll be able to issue more debt faster. So it helps offset a little bit because of the fact that the property growth has slowed down. But this will offset part of that by having lower interest rates as we go forward, and that will be in the long term. A number of the reasons that they stated, obviously there's a lot of cities in financial turmoil at this point in time, and they believe that our financial stability, our conservative approach was very helpful. One of the things they attributed that was very helpful was the financial policy that we passed a week or two ago. It was a positive as they reviewed our credit. And when they review our credit, I mean, they go through everything. I mean, they look at our employee pension systems, they look at OPEB, our other post-employment benefits, they take a look at our fund balances, they take a look at our cash position, they look at the general economy of the city. There's a lot of factors they look at as they come up with these ratings.
If I could, I really just wanted to point out that this sale is part of that $835 million bond issue that was passed in 2007.
That's correct.
With the specific purpose of funding improvements on streets and bridges and traffic control and police and fire facilities and those kinds of things, about which there's been a lot of discussion recently.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a comment on the bond thing, too. One of the things that has been a real source of satisfaction to me over the years I've been on the city council is watching the steady progress of this bond rating that we've achieved. This is the last now in a series of steps where we have consistently improved the bond rating in this city over 25 years probably, and it's been incremental, but it's been very positive, and to have been part of participation in that, as all of us ought to take a certain amount of pride in what's happened over the last 25 years to get our bond rating to the point where it is. There's nobody in the United States has a better one. I saw in the press release the list of cities that had good ones, and you didn't see any of those cities in that list that you see on TV that are having problems with their finances and all that. It's a good thing for the citizens of Oklahoma City to be, for this city, to be in the company of those elite cities across the United States that have this bond rating, and it's something that we need to be very careful of. And I think this council deserves credit for the kind of financial policies that have been going on for not just the last year or two or three, but over the past several years that have escalated this bond rating from where it was to where it is now. And I know Laura's been a big part of that, our finance people have, and I appreciate it very much.
But so is the council, and one of the things we talked about is how we weathered the recession over the last couple of years, and how we made the appropriate steps to do that with keeping the level of service as high as we can. and making conservative, prudent steps along the way.
Any other comments or questions on item 8C? Just being introduced today. All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 8D is our collective bargaining agreement with our firefighters. This is for fiscal year 2010-2011. Glad to see it has worked so smoothly. Motion is second. Anyone here wishing to talk about this item? We have a second?
And I have a question, Your Honor.
Okay.
Just a sort of procedural question. Since this, it was effective July 1st, 2010, and expires in just 2 months, have we incurred most of this $1,080,000 expense already?
That's the health insurance.
Okay, so the bulk of that $1 million is health insurance? And when did that go into effect, that additional payment? Are we going back and paying them for the months previous to this time?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
We could not pay that because that was not the rate that we were paying prior to this. And what Mr. Ryan is referring to is that the firefighters, as the council knows, is not involved in the city's insurance program. They have their own independent insurance program. And so this brings the rate, the annual amount we're paying for the firefighters in line to what we're paying or the cost for city employees, the rest of the city employees.
$1 million have a major impact on our budget?
Will have a major impact on
the budget?
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
And again, because of the fact of the revenues we've seen, I'll go more into that with our sales tax report here in a few minutes.
Can I get just a little bit more clarification? This is a independent coverage that the firefighters have.
Yes.
What's our participation?
Our anticipation annually is $10,540 per employee.
Per employee?
That's correct, on an annual basis.
And that number is what we pay our employees generally?
That's generally the cost.
It's not more or less than we pay our places?
That's correct.
All right, ready to vote? Yeah, Larry?
In the same vein, one thing I think I'm very appreciative of the firefighters and the city being able to get together on this, and I support this 100%. But I think there's one thing that we need to kind of keep in mind on the dollar side. This does, going from $9,500 to $10,540, is almost an 11%. It's a 10.9% plus increase. And so we need to keep that in mind when we go forward here. This points out the fact that our expenses are going up, and in this case, this 10.9%, I think, Jim, you'd have to say is a little bit faster than what we've experienced growth-wise sales tax since 2009, where we're basically just back to the same plateau.
That's correct.
So that kind of, I think, highlights we still have some budget challenges ahead, and it ties into what Pete was saying earlier. If we want to keep the Standard & Poor's rating, we just can't go off the deep end. We have to be very alert to what's going on financially.
All right. Ready to vote on item 8D? Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 8E, I understand we do not need executive session on this item?
No, we do not.
All right, how about a motion then? Voting on item 8E, passed unanimously. Item 8F, I understand we do not need executive session?
Yes, we do not.
Cast your votes on 8F. Item passes unanimously. Item 8G, I understand we do need executive session?
Yes.
All right. Cast your votes to move item 8G to executive session. Passed unanimously. Item 8H is claims recommended for denial. We have a couple of people that have signed up to speak. Letitia Younds.
Hello, my name is Letitia Young, and I'm here today on the account of Oklahoma City Police officers coming looking for my son, Torrey Crooks, came into my household and put a hole in my ceiling. They went up in my attic, put a hole in my ceiling, and I'm just here today asking why it's a denial.
Okay. Is this item 8H1C? Is this under the Marie Robinette?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. That is my landlord.
That's what?
My landlord.
Okay, I see. So You're here speaking on behalf of your landlord, and is this your landlord coming up behind you here?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and so Marie, you're the owner of the property? Okay, why don't you pull the microphone down, and we'll have you introduce yourself, too. Could you give us your name and address for the record?
I'm Marie Robinette at 208 East Ranchwood Circle, Oklahoma City.
Okay, so it sounds like the police visited this, and in the process of doing their work, some alleged damage was done to the home.
That's correct.
And there's been a file against the city, and the city is not willing to pay that claim for reasons that we'll probably hear about in a moment. Am I generally correct?
That's generally correct.
Okay, if we could hear from staff on what's occurred here.
The information that we received initially was that the Oklahoma City Police Department was not out at the claimant's location. We have received some additional information that indicates that the Oklahoma City Police Department was out assisting the Oklahoma Highway Patrol following a moving violation where the person who was the subject of the arrest warrant fled the vehicle. OHP was able to get the address for the person's residence, which was Ms. Young and Ms. Robinette's address on Camay. So the information that we have is that OHP and the OCPD did go out there in order to try and find the subject, and they did also find that there was a warrant for this same subject, but there was no indication that there was any damage done at the time that they went out there, and that the house already had some damage.
Okay. So your involvement in all of this is not whether the case is closed or active. It's to see the city's responsibility and whether or not we owe a claim. Is that right?
Correct.
It seems to me like we probably ought to bring the police chief up and find out a little bit more about actually what occurred there, so we can get a little more information, but talk to the right person. Chief, what can you add to this story?
Basically what Amy's saying is correct. We were there as an assisting agency. The Highway Patrol actually got into a pursuit with the individual. Individual actually ran from the vehicle and escaped. In the process of looking for the individual that the Highway Patrol was in pursuit of, they solicited our assistance. We went to the home. They figured out that they had a warrant. Also, there was a separate warrant, not only for they weren't looking for him also for the pursuit, involved in the pursuit, but also there was a separate warrant for his arrest. Went to the home. We assisted. We went to the home with OHP like we do with any agencies that's in our jurisdiction. According to the information, they were allowed to go in and search the residence. They were provided a copy of the old warrant that was currently in existence. According to the officers, there was no forced entry. There was nothing that had to be done to go in to search for the individual, and there was no damage to the house at that time.
Okay. So it sounds like we have a series of issues here where your information to us is that there was no damage performed at the house while our officers were at this place. Is that generally correct?
First, we were an assisting agency to begin with, and secondly, there was no damage indicated by the officers.
Okay. All right. Let me bring back up our legal staff then again. Can you give us some legal advice on the discretion of the council and whether or not we can pay this claim or should pay this claim, or whatever information you can provide for us in that regard, so council can make individually up their minds about the situation?
Before I answer that question, if I could also add that in researching this incident, contact was made with another government agency, and it was discovered that that government agency had been there a year prior on the exact same date and did recall doing some damage to the property on that date.
On that exact same date?
On that exact same date, yes,
sir. Okay. All right. All right, and council's discretion on this item, what would your advice be from that perspective?
You do have discretion, but there's no indication that there's been any damage.
Okay, so our investigation is there's no evidence that not only are we responsible, but there's even any damage to the property.
That is correct.
Okay. Now, thank you very much.
Certainly.
What can you add to what you've heard?
I turned in pictures with the claim, and I brought some, but I guess I did not pick up that file. It must be in, I don't know. But I did turn in photos if you have a copy of what I initially turned in.
Okay. Letitia, what happened on the night in question with the Oklahoma City Police Department supposedly visited? What made you believe that first of all, our officers caused damage, and secondly, it was them that caused it?
On October the 14th, around 4 o'clock in the morning, they came and knocked on my door. I was asleep. I heard a big bang on my door, so I got up. I went to the door and asked who was it. They said it's the Oklahoma City Police. Open the door. I said, well, I don't have any clothes on. Let me go get clothes on, and I will open the door. So when I opened the door, they had my door cocked back. They broke my door. They rushed. I asked them, did they have a warrant before I even opened the door? They said yes. That's why I opened the door, because they said that they had a warrant. Well, once I opened the door, they just rushed in, went to the back, and 2 or 3 of them, I can't remember, went up in my attic. They almost fell through. They came out with installation all on them, itching. And my son told me this morning that one of the officers' names was Officer Kirby. He actually knows him because he's kin to one of his friends.
Okay.
So that was one of the officers' names that came out of the attic that was itching really, really bad. And so I said, y'all just broke my ceiling. They cursed me out, told me that they didn't care, and there was 2 highway patrolmen there. They never left my front door. They stood right in the front door. It was the Oklahoma City policeman who, went throughout my house and went up in my attic.
Okay.
Was your son there?
No. And it states that in this letter that I received, that no one has been out to my house since March of 2009. That is not true. They constantly comes to my house. Now, I don't know if this is being reported that they're coming out, but they have been to my house even after the incident happened with them damaging my ceiling and my front door.
Right.
They came out one time, but after that, I called my landlord. I said, they're here again, and I do not want to let them in because they do not have a warrant.
But she gave me, we changed the lease several years ago. He does not occupy the property.
Okay.
Did he ever occupy the property?
He did at one time.
Before he turned 18.
So he did live and resided there, right?
Right, he did live there. But every time, as many times that they have been out, he's never there. I keep telling him that he does not live there. And I don't know if that will make them stay away, but actually after the time that I've called my landlord and put her on the phone and let her talk to the police officer, they have not been back after that.
All right. Well, we're dealing here with, obviously insufficient information to act as if we're a court of law. Not sure how this vote's going to go, but if you don't get the result that you're hoping for, you still would have legal rights to take us to court and have a judge and have a real trial and go through that part of the process. We are going to deal with the information that you presented us this morning, and then it'll be back in your court as to how you would like to proceed. Any other comments or questions from counsel on this item?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure, Brian.
If OCPD did do this, are they protected for these damages based on their job just in general?
There is a state statute that does provide exemption for the method of providing law enforcement protection.
Okay. We have a motion and a second either way on this item.
Can I ask one other question?
You bet.
Does anybody know what the warrant was for?
It was for failure to appear, actually in 2 cases. The subject failed to appear in 2 separate cases in district court, which, by the way, looking up this subject's personal information, his identifiers, it lists the claimant's address as the contact address.
This was not a city charge, this was a state charge.
That's what I wanted to
And so
find
the
out.
city police wouldn't have been involved with this, weren't they, as the chief was saying, or the backup assistants, right? And they weren't involved in it.
We were assisting OHP on the arrest. If he was there, the arrest would have been made by OHP, not OCPD. We were assisting him on that. Now, the previous year, prior to that, was with the U.S. Marshals Task Force, and the task force actually admits doing damage to the roof, to the ceiling from the attic a year prior to that. But we don't have any indication that from the reports and from the information that we have that there was any damage done at this.
So, Chief, that actually is my question. We've just heard that there was damage done to the ceiling a year prior.
Mm-hmm.
Did you file a claim at that time? And was there any compensation paid for the damage that was done?
Not to my knowledge.
No. I am on a program. They come out every year and inspect my unit. My house was not damaged.
This is the first damage, October 14th of 2010.
What kind of a report do we have that shows that there was damage done the year previous?
We just had in following up on this complaint and trying to identify who was in the home. We identified the U.S. Marshals a year ago, and then this incident recently. And when we identified the U.S. Marshals, they admitted, I guess in their reports that they have, that they did damage the ceiling at that point, which would be consistent with the information that she's giving us now, where the ceiling's damaged near the attic, because they did go in the attic on this incident also to look for this individual.
Chief, what is the process if OCPD does do damage to property? Is there a documenting process of that? Is there somewhere?
So it'll be documented in the reports. Any reports they make on the arrests, if they actually make arrests and those types of things, then officers are supposed to document the damage. If they have to kick the door in and the door is removed from the hinges, that type of information does have to be in the reports.
And do you experience, is that highly reliable? I mean, because it would be easy just to omit something like that from a handwritten report, but do you find it highly reliable that they're consistent with that?
I think I would hope that it's reliable. If we find that an officer hasn't provided that information, then we take action against the officer. But yeah, it is reliable.
I just wanted to, it sounded like this has to be more than just a simple failure to appear in court. Otherwise, I don't think the Oklahoma Highway Patrol would be involved. And so the seriousness of this case was, well, what was the actual charge? Do you know, counsel?
On the evening of October 14th of last year, the whole situation initiated with the pursuit of the wanted subject. And then it was discovered that he had warrants for his arrest for failure to appear. The one in particular that was provided to us with the claim form regarded domestic violence by strangulation. I also spoke with the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Warrant Office, and they indicated that they had 4 or 5 active warrants for this individual at this time, and that they've made frequent visits to Ms. Young's residence as well.
And so the pursuit was a situation in which they followed the individual to this particular area or this particular address. Is that right?
There was a female individual in the vehicle as well, and once the subject took off, she gave the OHP officer Ms. Young's address as this guy's residence.
Okay. We're not here to put a finalization to the whole issue out there, but I just want to say one thing, and that is we just experienced yesterday in this city Oklahoma Highway Patrol, Oklahoma City Police, and probably the Oklahoma County Sheriff in a very similar carbon copy situation. Happened to also involve a female who I think they're still looking for, that jumped out of the car. Individual was pursued, ultimately jumped out of the car, ran into a neighborhood, jumped over a fence, and is reported that he committed suicide. Now, these officers go through a great deal of trying to do the job that they are sworn and take the oath to do. Citizens don't have to take those oaths. You know, only thing the citizen is supposed to do is comply with the law. Don't run from the police. And sometimes when the officers are trying to do the job that they have to do to protect all of us, it's based on pieces of information, it's based on car tags, it's based on whether or not you're going to run or comply with the officer's orders. And they're just doing the best that they can do. And if a person has an address that he's been at for some period of time or any period of time in which you've already acknowledged the fact that the individual obviously was on some paperwork of knowing that he lived there, and somebody, and I don't think police officers just go around trying to find out where everybody lives until there is something that happens that's reported to them, to give them a reason and a basis to have some information to look for the individual. And so, you know, I just want to say this. I hope this doesn't sound like that I'm taking sides either way, but I just think that sometimes these cases come in and it's too much of a target to those individuals who are trying to do the job that protects the lives of all of us.
Well, the courts are going to have to deal with this probably ultimately, but I think from this council is going to have to deal with the information we have provided. I'm still waiting for a motion from council one way or the other. Okay, we have a motion and a second for denial. Is the motion for item H1, A, B, and C, because the information we've heard is just on C. Is it for all three? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on this item? All right, cast your votes. All right, the yes vote means that the claims have been recommended for denial have been denied. And I'll say once again, you do have opportunities in court across the street to proceed the matter in a judicial standpoint. We're not a court of laws as much as sometimes it appears that we try to be. All right. We're on to item 9. This is items from council. We'll start with Councilman White, who has an issue about taking a stance.
The resolution has to do with the current legislation that's pending before the state legislature. I've got some copies of things that I would have liked to have distributed before today, but I'm going to distribute them now. They are just some items that have to do with this current legislation that's before the state legislature. The first thing is a list of those entities that support returning the right to regulate tobacco use to the cities. Oklahoma, as you've probably heard before, is one of only 2 states that the municipalities do not have the ability to regulate the tobacco use within their boundaries, that is totally preempted by the state. So the first item in this packet is a list of entities in the state of Oklahoma that are supporting this legislation that will permit the cities to have some control over the use of tobacco. The next items, all the rest of them, are letters of support that have been written to the Oklahoma legislators concerning their specific support. One from AARP, one from the March of Dimes, one from the Oklahoma Academy, one from the Oklahoma Policy Prevention Alliance, and the other one from the State Medical Association. I will have to be candid. I mean, my interest in this certainly is twofold. Early on, it was piqued by the mayor's involvement in making Oklahoma City a healthier place in some of the lose 1 million pounds, or was it 1 million? I've gained and lost most of those over the course of your effort, so I'm probably a big contributor to that 1 million. Not as much as you are, And then secondly, I would be less than candid to admit that my wife is not any small part of this. She is an employee of the Oklahoma Hospital Association, and this is a major issue on the part of the Hospital Association, because smoking is the leading cause of preventable death in this country. So anything that we can do to make smoking more difficult or free people that don't smoke from secondhand smoke is an item that's of a great public health interest. This particular resolution is to clarify the city's position if, in fact, the legislation passes. The Oklahoma City is unique in that it has what I believe to be the only casino facility in the state that is not totally operated on Indian land and governed by the set of rules that the sovereign Indian nations have to rule their own destiny. And this is really to prevent there being discrimination between the way the tribes are treated as opposed to anything else. Certainly, the tribes collectively have made great strides in an effort to reduce smoking in their facilities. They are very close to passing rules that are very similar to what we have now concerning their restaurant facilities, all the other types of facilities they have. Whether that happens in casinos that quickly or not, or racinos that quickly or not, is another matter. But they are not oblivious to the problems of smoking. What I'm attempting to do is to put all the Indian-operated gaming facilities on the same footing, even though the Oklahoma City Racino at Remington is somewhat different in that it's on land that's owned by the Zoo Trust, the beneficiary of which is the city of Oklahoma City. It's under a contract with the Horse Racing Commission. It's just a different animal. But it is operated very much like the compacts operate, the tribe compacts and the tribal sovereign rules operate the other racinos and casinos that are around the state. So it's really just an effort to keep them all on the same footing. Remington is so vital to the horse racing industry of Oklahoma that I wouldn't want to, I mean, the part of the art of getting things done in politics is the art of compromise. And this is, to some extent, a compromise. I can understand arguments that would say this is not good public policy to exempt someone, but the truth is that the casinos are going to be exempted all over the country, all over Oklahoma, if the present legislation passes. So this is an attempt to put Remington Park on the same footing as all the other facilities in the state. I have every confidence that the tribes will come to realize the importance of the restriction of smoking in those facilities. They're moving that direction, and I have every confidence that they'll do that in the future. I just don't want Oklahoma City to be an impediment against getting the entire thing passed for the state over just the issue of Remington Park. And that's the whole point of it. It's a compromise. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Okay, so that's you're in favor of the resolution. I'm
in favor of the resolution. And this, I mean, it's obviously well supported across the state. It's a good idea. I mean, I could go on and on. Like the Journal Record article says today, some of you guys go home and talk about what you did today. I go home and talk to my wife about what we're going to do to eliminate smoking in public places in Oklahoma City, in Oklahoma. So I do have a little larger dose of it than perhaps the rest of you.
Well, would the result of your resolution allow or prohibit smoking at a facility licensed by the Oklahoma Horse Racing Commission?
It says that we have no intent to impose tobacco regulations which are stricter than those now exist at the state on Remington Park.
Okay, but
it says a horse racing commission, but that's Remington Park.
Okay. So essentially, we would allow Remington Park
to continue to operate as they
let
presently
people
do.
smoke if they wanted to.
Continue to operate.
Despite your rather, I thought, eloquent plea for the health of people, this is an exception to allow them to be unhealthy at that location.
Say that again.
Well, it seems like this resolution is counter to what you said earlier. You made, I think, a very impassioned, very eloquent speech in support of eliminating smoking as a health hazard. And then you're saying this resolution would allow that health hazard to continue to exist at this facility because of the competition with the Indian tribal operated casinos?
Passing legislation is a lot like watching sausage being made. You don't really want to watch this happen. But I would rather permit smoking at Remington Park than see the entire thing fail statewide. And I have a very strong feeling that that's exactly what we're up against. There are compromises that you make to move forward, and this is just one of them.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. All right. Any other comments or questions on 9? We have...
Mayor,
yes,
I do have a question. Pete, can you, as I'm thinking about this, can you speak to the business side of it? Is there a business reason for it? Is there a competitive reason to allow it, or is it strictly the health side of it? Or what, I mean, is there going to be, do you feel that there's a...
The health side outweighs anything else. There may well be a competitive reason. I think most businesses that have eliminated smoking have not suffered as a result of that. Now, those that continue to use smoking are benefiting by the fact that some others have quit. So I think there, as the number of smokers continue to decrease, that importance is going to get less and less. But that's an overriding thing. This has really nothing to do with that. This has to do with whether or not it's practical to exempt this in order to try to achieve a larger goal, which is the ability to control tobacco use generally, as opposed to in one specific location.
All right.
I mean, I would tell you this, I'm not proud of this. This is not what but I would certainly rather see this pass and the bill that's before the legislature passed, giving cities the authority they should have and that they have all over the United States with the exemption of one facility, then I would see it fail. I mean, and that's where I am.
So the argument is that if we don't do this, that the state bill is going to fail.
Well, I'm not clairvoyant. I mean, I can't tell you what the legislature is going to do, but I think that that this will make it much easier for the legislature to pass the bill that's presently in front of them.
Okay. Scott, you want to identify yourself and speak to the item?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Scott Wells, President and General Manager of Remington Park, and I can address Commissioner Walters' question about the business impact. And let me begin by saying I respect the desire for improved health in Oklahoma. My own mother, a native Oklahoman, died from throat cancer, and upon hearing of her diagnosis, first thing she did was light a cigarette. As we know, there are millions of people across the country that choose that product, and I hope, as does Commissioner White, that we see in our lifetime a dramatic decrease. Nothing would please me more as I work in my own environment not to encounter smoking. Having said that, our business was saved in 2004 by statewide legislation which carved out an exception for places that conduct casino gaming or simulcast racing. And since that time, we've been able to revitalize what was once a very proud Oklahoma institution, and particularly since January 1st of last year, when Global Gaming, a subsidiary of the Chickasaw Nation, bought our plant, we have sunk more than $15 million into the property and made it once again a point of pride for Oklahoma. The facts are, from a business standpoint, and this can be documented in numerous other states, that when one casino, because it's a known fact that many casino players partake of tobacco, when one casino is made to be non-smoking, they absolutely plummet in their business levels. And in Oklahoma, we're the only casino that is faced, well, number one, now we are tribally owned, but we operate under Oklahoma law, and our competitors are the 103 other casinos, tribal casinos, where smoking is prohibited. Now, I would certainly hope that as progress is made at the tribal level, then we would keep up with that progress. But I can tell you now that the 600 jobs that I directly employ at Remington Park and thousands of jobs in the Oklahoma horse industry would be very, very negatively impacted by this, and it could cause the failure of our business. I predict that it would cause the failure of our business. I signed a check yesterday for, I think, $203,000 that goes to the Oklahoma City Zoo, and that's because we surpassed a revenue level that we had agreed upon several years before. Well, we would never reach that revenue level again. I can guarantee that. And so sharing Commissioner White's sentiments on the big picture, I must focus on the 9,989 people licensed to work at Remington Park. Those are horsemen, in addition to the 600 people that I employ on a daily basis. It would have devastating business consequences for us.
Yeah, Larry? I'm confused, and Pete, if you could help me out here. The first part of your resolution here talks about restore local rights. And so if we vote in favor of restoring local rights, do we not in Oklahoma City have the local right to put together smoking restrictions that are more strict in the state, equal to the state, or even less strict in the state, if we get that?
That's right.
Okay? So if we get that, right, then we can do with Remington Park just to use whatever we want to do. I don't see the connection between the two. And I do see a philosophical difference on the one hand to say we really want to restrict smoking. Now, there are legitimate reasons for Remington Park possibly to smoke, and so we can make that decision, but I don't see that tying this second exception. So can I make a recommendation? I'd like to move that we...
Well, we already have a motion and a second on the floor, so do we need to vote on that?
I'd like to make an amendment.
Or the...
He can make an amendment.
Okay.
I'd like an amendment that we pass this resolution by striking the second whereas.
By striking what?
Second whereas.
Are you talking about striking the whole paragraph or just the word?
No, I'm sorry, the whole paragraph.
Okay.
Well, I won't accept that amendment without a vote of the group that accepts it. I mean, my point is this. My point is this. That we know that resolutions of this council are binding. Not at all. We know that resolutions of this council can be changed if we choose to change them. We might as well get that out on the table. We cannot bind what a future council can do. It would be against the law for us to do that. This is a statement of our intent to let the Horse Racing Commission, through what he indicated they would be willing to do with regard to the tribes, work this problem out. It is a problem that this would be the only facility in the state of Oklahoma that would be covered if we do this. We are putting this facility at a distinct competitive disadvantage. Now, I personally do not agree that over a long period of time that would be a competitive disadvantage, but that's not a business decision I've got to make. That's one this gentleman has to make. And it is possible that the addiction to gambling and cigarettes are somehow linked in people's mind, and because if anyone that's been to a casino knows they're smoke-filled. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of people that smoke that go there, and very few that don't smoke don't go there. Now, maybe that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't know. Maybe because if you don't smoke, you don't want to go because you don't want to be around the smoke. But it's a foregone conclusion that there's lots of smoke. Any of us that have ever indulged in casinos here or any place else know they're very smoky. So that's just how it is.
I would respectfully submit that, we spent $2.2 million on an air removal system, and we do a far above average job of creating.
Many of the restaurants in Oklahoma City have done lots of things to try to screen people from that don't want to smoke, and those that have done it have been very successful. Those that have just eliminated smoking have found that it didn't. But a gambling facility is somewhat different, I think, in that this facility is unique. We are saying we do not intend to impose regulations on this facility that would not be imposed on other gaming facilities. That's basically what my point is.
Are you saying that if this amendment passes that it undoes the whole purpose of the resolution? If Larry's amendment, if we accept Larry's amendment, does it undo the purpose of the resolution?
Yeah. Well, I think it's part and parcel to it. It's been pointed out to me that it may not be the operating language of the resolution, and if I wasn't so thick-headed, I might be able to be convinced of that quickly. It's going to take a little longer than that, I'm afraid.
The now therefore language is your operative language.
Well, if that's the case, then it doesn't change it. We can take it out then.
We still need a second on Larry's amendment. We still need a second on Larry's.
My amendment with the now therefore, I think, doesn't do what I intend. I thought the thrust of the, okay?
Maybe we should just take a week and come back next week.
I thought the thrust was, I would like an amendment that would restore local rights and leave the whole Remington Park out of it.
I don't think we can do that.
Well, I understand that. Now, after reading the way it is. So I'm going to just withdraw my amendment.
Actually,
can I do that? Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay.
Sounds like it's going to make it easier.
Well, I know that's advice I give other people, but we have already done that. We are already on record that we want to restore local rights. That's what all our unanimous vote to agree with the legislative program did. So we're already on the record it's doing that.
Gary, you want to speak?
Well, at the risk of admitting that you've taken me around 3 different blocks and I'm so lost, Pete. How, if Remington is a different animal, if it's a different type of entity out there, how are they not following the state regulations now like all the restaurants are here in Oklahoma City? Are you considered exempt from that because of what?
We are legally exempt by the language of State Question 712, which gives a specific exemption to places that conduct casino gaming or pari-mutuel wagering. We are operating under current law. We are a facility in which smoking is allowed.
But that law is not going to be changed.
No, I have to add one other thing. Now that I've got you confused, I'll mess it up even more. This would also apply to off-track betting facilities, too, because they're covered by the same rules that he's talking about.
That's
so any place there's an
of which we
off-track,
have 2.
Yeah, but that would also apply to them. So for me to say it only applies to Remington Park as a specific point on the map is not quite true, because OTB facilities, wherever they're located, would be covered the same way.
That is how they are covered currently under existing law.
But if they're covered under a law that has to do with the exemption to the casinos and racinos and all of that, how does that will not be impacted if the state legislature changed the preemption law just on tobacco? Will it?
If that's the case, this may be an exercise in futility, but or unnecessary, maybe unnecessary.
Well,
But I don't want to take the chance of that becoming an issue at the legislature and losing the state exemption, the state preemption argument based on this.
Yeah, I guess a couple of things here. It sounds to me like some people are wanting to know what our intentions are if we get this opportunity to make more restrictive smoking ordinances. But everyone knows council can change its mind next week or the week after that on a resolution, but they would like some level of intent. And apparently, if you're on the healthier community side of the argument, this actually may sound counterproductive, but in actuality, it might help the state legislation pass. I think that's everything on the table. The council would not be restricted by this going down the line future, but it's an intention today that we would exempt Remington Park from smoking prohibition should the council decide that it wanted to start having more restrictive smoking provisions down the line. Now, we have a motion.
I just have...
Anybody else want to speak before we
talk about this? But I just for a point of clarification, as Mr. Wells stated, the track is already exempt.
That's correct.
That's correct. What the legislation is presently being considered at the Capitol, is that legislation directed also to affect the...
I think this particular facility is a special case because it is not on tribal-owned land. And so there might be some discretion amongst the municipality in question, which is us.
So the exemption that you presently operate under, this is one of those, that's the exemption that applies to restaurants or clubs that have a set-aside area for smoking. Is that right, Mr. Wells?
As I understand it, no. The exemption that we operate under currently was part of the State Question 712.
Okay.
The concern on our part is that proceeding to continue to invest and so on as we are trying to do, that there would be a level of uncertainty about our future. And we just want things to continue as they are until such time as the 103 other casinos move toward a non-smoking environment. We would drop in the rankings among casino players from number 3 or 4 to number 103 or 4, frankly. So we're looking for some level of assurance that we can continue to operate under the rules as they're currently being played.
Scott, may I understand from that statement that you just made that were the other casinos to move toward non-smoking and a healthier environment, that Remington Park would not have any difficulty in making that same move?
That's my philosophy, and under my leadership, we would try to just keep pace with our competitors. As I said, I'm a non-smoker, and my dad quit smoking in 1964, the first time the Surgeon General said it was dangerous.
So Scott's maintaining he just wants a level playing field.
Right.
But we can't, this resolution has nothing to do with a level playing field. It just says we think today, at this moment, that we would do this. Yep. It's not binding on our council. Next week, we could change our mind. And if this is the kind of assurance they're looking for, I think it's a pretty weak read, really. I'm not sure that we ought to just put this aside and wait and see what happens in legislation. It just seems like this kind of a resolution may create a false sense of confidence in some people because of the fact that we adopted it formally. And in reality, it has absolutely no assurances that anything will be done to favor Remington in the future or hamper Remington.
Well, you're not wrong, but I think the old saying, "It is what it is," I think is pretty apparent here. There may be agendas at the stake here, but there's no hidden agendas. I mean, it is right out for everyone to see. Yeah, can we vote?
But the answer to that question is we ought to eliminate doing resolutions if that's the case, because we never pass a resolution that is binding more than the moment that we vote on it. It is, but I don't think that's a valid way to look at it. I think you have to look at it, this is our intent. If it's not your intent, if it is not your intent, then you ought to vote against this resolution. We shouldn't be sending, I think we've done everything we can today to make sure that we're not sending a false message. I mean, I think the people that have talked one way or the other have pretty well set out what they feel about it. The majority will decide today whether this is a resolution or not. Every resolution we pass would be subject to that criticism, Pat, every one. I mean, resolutions of commendation to the young lady that sang a while ago. We could revoke that next Tuesday if we so decided. That's just the nature of the beast. And working on projects like the reduction of smoking and moving people toward healthier lifestyles are a little bit like eating a foot-long hot dog. You only eat them a bite at a time. You do not attempt to jam the whole dog down your throat at once. This is a bite taking us a step closer to a better, healthier place, and that's all it is. To look at it as anything beyond that is something we can't do. The 9 of us cannot do.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is an easy vote or a hard vote, but it needs to be a vote.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I've got two other comments. I would like the municipal councilor's office to research if the current bills that are moving forward at the state to change the preemption for smoking in Oklahoma would change the exemptions that they've got under the state law that was passed or not, because I'm kind of curious whether that's even something that we're going to have to debate over or not. Secondly, and I'm going to support Pete's motion because I understand what the purpose is and so forth. But I'll just warn the council that should we get to a point where we restrict greater in Oklahoma City than the state law, and we don't do Remington, and part of that was because of the unfair disadvantage that it would put them against all the other casinos, we're going to have all of the sports bar owners in town coming here saying we put them at a disadvantage because we're allowing Remington to do it. So we're going to be up with that voice is already starting to be heard out there.
That's right.
So,
be careful what you ask for when you ask for rights to determine your own future. Right. Okay. I think we ought to vote. All right. We have a motion. We have a second, and we're voting on items for council, and it's item 9A. All right. Cast your votes, and it passes by a count of 7-2. Any other items from council? Pat, you want to get started?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a comment. In the last couple of weeks, we've considered claims against the city for cutting utilities. We've paid some and we denied some based on the circumstances. And whether we pay it or not, there is a cost involved that somebody's going to have to pay for it, and it's usually our citizens because they're at the end of the line. But my real concern is that if this is a trend to have more of these, we are running the risk of injuring a city employee. Digging into a cable facility is inconvenient and expensive. If they dug into a high-pressure gas line or a high-voltage electric line, it could be fatal. And I would just suggest that we may need to review our processes to ensure that we don't have a flaw in our processes that would endanger our employees. Because at OG&E we had a motto that there was no service so necessary that we should risk injuring or killing somebody. And I think that's the sort of policy we ought to have in the city.
All right. Skip?
Yes. I'd like to thank the staff at the Oklahoma City Softball Hall of Fame. Yesterday there was a ribbon cutting for the opening of a new facility, the 10,000 square foot multi-purpose field house. And of course it's a fantastic addition to the icon of Northeast Oklahoma City. The college tournament World Series will start this summer early. I think it's July the 21st, 25th. And there will also be a youth tournament on March the 4th and a college tournament on March the 5th. So the Oklahoma City Softball Hall of Fame is moving with great strides and with a great staff and showing great success, and it still remains the #1 facility in the United States for what they do as far as softball is concerned. And I would like to thank Mr. Couch, the staff, as it relates to being the recipient of the grant that the City of Oklahoma City just received for the fire department that will help restore positions with the Oklahoma City Fire Department. And so you have done a fantastic job, and for the delegation in Washington, D.C. that helped fight for that and for Oklahoma City to be a winner. And I don't know how many other states was in the running, but it's great to see us come out with a top award like that.
It's Chief Bryant that deserves the credit for that.
Okay, well, Chief, thank you so much. And to the mayor, I would like to thank you for a comment that I read in reference to a stand that you took that you didn't have to take, but I'm so proud that you did. As we all know, that the budget in the United States is being magnified to every degree, and cuts are being made, and proposed cuts, and a lot of those cuts go straight to the heart of small cities, large cities, as it relates to the community development block grant programs. And so the mayor, you made a statement in Washington, D.C. supporting to not cut those grants, and advocating the need for large cities such as Oklahoma City and the great things that we've been able to accomplish with the Community Block Grant Program. And I just think that's a great measure of you as a man, that in light of all the party fighting that we see in the United States today, and everybody's pointing the blame at one party over another as it relates to what the spending is in America, but to look at the human conditions of needs of individuals in the various cities that we know for a fact has nothing to do with whether or not you're a Republican, a Democrat, Tea Party, or any other party affiliation, but it goes straight to the heart of the lives of children, to the needs of those individuals who are homeless, to the infrastructure of our major cities, our small cities. And there was an article in one of the most recent NLC magazines, I believe it was Stonewall? I didn't even know there was a such town as Stonewall, Oklahoma. But it made the front page of the NLC magazine. And this is a small city in Oklahoma that prides itself on being the recipient of Community Block Grant that is changing the lives of people in this city as it relates to infrastructure, water services. And so I just want to thank you, Mayor, to take that position in spite of the fact that, there was a lot of individuals that was driven strictly on party alliance that was there to protest against any of these services as far as funding. And so thank you so much for standing up for Oklahoma City, for the need that Oklahoma City has and the continued progress that we have made from the Community Block Grant programs.
Thanks, Skip. Meg?
Yeah, quickly, I would just...
Mr. Kelly?
Yes, sir.
We have a pump station in Stonewall that pumps the water up from Lake Atoka up to Lake Draper, and so Stonewall is just north of Ada, and we actually have a facility just outside of Stonewall. So,
Quickly, I just want to thank Tom Jones and his staff at the City Rescue Mission for including me last week at a wonderful event. They are the recipient of a $20,000 grant from the George Kaiser Family Foundation, going strictly to operations, and they do such wonderful work there. I thought it was heartening that Ken Levitt from the Kaiser Family Foundation was in Oklahoma City. They have made a particular effort to look at nonprofits across the whole state that are really doing great work, and try to find some areas where they can be helpful during this difficult economic time. And we know lots of our nonprofits have had some trouble raising money, and for them to recognize City Rescue Mission, I thought was particularly meaningful, and it was a really nice event. I appreciated participating.
All right. Brian?
No official comments. Yesterday, my wife and I had the opportunity to celebrate our 13th wedding anniversary, and so one day, kind of late, publicly, happy anniversary, and I love her, and I appreciate her standing through all this political stuff.
Well stated. Yeah. Pete? All right. Larry?
Yeah, City Manager, I wish you'd pass along my sincere thanks to Beth from the Action Center for coming out last week to talk to the Windsor Area Business Group on the role of the Action Center, and then Charles Locke last evening going out to far western Oklahoma City to the Wood Run Neighborhood Association to discuss what code enforcement does. I think it's a tribute to your people, how they're willing to go the extra mile and go out and talk to the citizens and answer their questions and get input from them. So thank you very much.
Sam?
Mayor, my time's getting short on the council, and just ask your indulgence as I prolong this meeting just a little bit. Mayor, I'm not much of a fan of automobile racing, but I was at my son-in-law's when the Daytona 500 was run and noticed the inordinate number of caution flags. I think there were twice the number of caution flags in the history of Daytona. And I just want to raise a couple of caution flags. One, with regards to a heavily developed area of Ward 2. 3 years or so ago, myself, city manager, public works, traffic, planning, ODOT, and ACOG got together and looked at a direction and a resolve to traffic problems on that section of Northwest Highway, Penn Square Mall to Western Avenue. ACOG was able to, with their computer modeling, able to do some traffic modeling that has really helped to enhance in the last 3 years improvements by both the city and the state to that section of Northwest Highway. What we didn't do at that time, it just wasn't a concern that I think we're seeing now and going to see in the future. And I just asked City Manager if we might have that opportunity again with Public Works and traffic people, perhaps ACOG, to sit down and look at this section of Western Avenue between the Northwest Highway and I'm going to say as far as Wilshire. Just to put it in a little perspective, today we approved additional parking, Chesapeake Class and Curve, with their expansion. Last week at the Planning Commission, the Chesapeake East Campus was there with a plan unit development to finish the PUD for the East Campus. It's my understanding that in the next 3 to 5 years, with office buildings for employees, Chesapeake looks to hire an additional 3,500 people in the next 3 to 5 years. Charlie Givens is looking at a development on Northwest 63rd, east of All Souls Episcopal Church, between there and Grand Boulevard. And in looking at that traffic count that those people have obtained for that section of 63rd Street and Western is 27,000 cars per day. Whole Foods opens in November, scheduled to open in November. I don't know, my numbers are off, I think, Jim. I don't know whether it's 2,500 cars a day or a week that the average Whole Foods on their website just attracts at a single store. In that section of south of 63rd, Glenbrook neighborhood, Meadowbrook, Brookhaven just across the street from Deep Fork Creek, are all raising issues in the recent 6-12 months with regards to ingress and egress. I just think it's time to sit and stop, and maybe a modeling, as we did on Northwest Highway, might be appropriate, just to point us forward, and would like to ask that we do that. On the second cautionary thing, and I hesitate to do this, but I just feel I feel like separate enough from it at this point and objective enough from it that I'd just like to say a few words about the election process going underway at this time. There have been some extremely good public forums conducted this year. The Neighborhood Alliance has conducted 4 separate forums for each of the 4 wards. Chesapeake, a large forum, Urban Land Institute forum. All these efforts to educate and inform our citizens in a non-filtered kind of way. I did not attend any, but I've been called by people that were at the Ward 2 forum held by the Neighborhood Alliance at Putnam Heights School, and they were complimentary on the format, the questions, the information, the civility of that forum. There were over 100 people just at that Ward 2, and they did 3 others. I understand that the Chesapeake Forum and the Urban Land Institute Forum, there were equal number of people, again, benefiting by an unfiltered and educated means of hearing from the candidates and what they had to say. And then, in these last few weeks, big money has gotten involved to the extent, my opinion, it has just made a mockery of our city elections. And I don't, it's the times are here. I didn't see it coming this fast. The times are here where bigger money is going to be involved in local elections. I had no idea whatsoever to this extent. I want to just suggest, in the time after these elections, as things quiet down and calm down, settle down, and we can look forward, that this council would look to address some form of campaign disclosure. And I don't know what municipalities can do in regards to this. I don't know what the state can do with regards to this. I think we owe it at least to our citizens to at least address it and see what we can do about campaign disclosure. We're not going to slow the money down. The day has arrived and it's going to come. But people, I think, need to know who's behind the money, and I just think there may be a way, if not at the municipal level, at least at the state level, for us to put on our legislative priority list next year a way to address campaign disclosure. It's been an honor to serve on this council, and it's been an honor every day. It just has really caught me up fast.
Sure. Gary? All right. City manager reports.
Mr. Mayor, we've got a couple this morning. The first report is going to be a presentation on the status of the Oklahoma City Arena. We awarded contracts a week or 2 ago on the last large portion for the Oklahoma City Arena. We do have a sports facility advisory board, and Councilman Salyer and Councilman Ryan and Councilman McAtee serve on. And so they've seen some of this, but the rest of the council hasn't seen in detail some of the improvements that we're proposing over there. I am pleased to report again that the bids came in very well for us, and so that this project, there's still risks involved in getting the project completed, but some of the financial risks have gone away with the bids coming in as well as we have, and I think we've done a good job of managing both the revenue side and the expectations, and also managing the contracts so we put them out to bid. And with that, Mr. Anderson, can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to do with the Oklahoma City Arena?
Good morning. Tom Anderson, City Manager's Office. It's my pleasure to give you an update on the Oklahoma City Arena, where we've been, and the plans moving forward with respect to completion of the expansion and renovation of this facility. With respect to background, the Oklahoma City Arena was, of course, built as part of the original MAPS program, located adjacent to the entertainment district and now, thankfully, many hotels. It was constructed with a limited purpose 1 cent MAPS sales tax. As you'll see later, and we're very thankful for this, it has a very flexible design, and that's been to great benefit of us as we've gone into the expansion and renovation project. Opened in 2002, the original construction cost was just over $89 million, and to date it's hosted more than 7 million event goers. In FY 2009, the attendance was just over 1.1 million patrons, with a direct spending economic impact of $98.8 million. And to date, we have generated more than $500 million in direct spending for the Oklahoma City economy. And I might note that FY 2009 number, consider that we were closed for construction for 5 months during that period. I have a case study, and I certainly do not want to denigrate the city of Miami. I could have chosen a number of facilities, but there is a lesson here, and it's a lesson of, for our market, why paying financing the arena on a pay-as-you-go basis and constructing with a flexible design was the right choice for Oklahoma City. The Miami Arena was built in 1988 for $52 million, and like many such projects, it was financed with bonds. It was the home for the Miami Heat NBA team and the Florida Panthers NHL team. It was located in somewhat of an undesirable area, and because of its design, it was somewhat inflexible, and the major league tenants desired certain amenities to that arena. They wanted suites, they wanted updated concessions so that they could get enhanced revenue streams. It was not able to provide those renovations, and subsequently both of the teams relocated. The Heat went to the new American Airlines Arena, and the NHL team relocated to Bank Atlantic Center in Sunrise, Florida. And along with that, many of the concerts relocated, and pretty much all of the event activity left the Miami Arena. So subsequently, a private investor ended up buying the facility at auction for less than half of its original price. A land trade was proposed for the baseball team that never went through, and ultimately the arena was demolished in 2008. So again, the lesson here, we paid cash for our arena. We're paying cash for the renovations. We had a base design with the arena that allows for certain amenities to be added and renovated to meet the different various marketing demands as we move forward and as changes in the market take place. That makes this arena a very flexible commodity and made it very desirable for the NBA when we were selected to receive a team. Moving forward, the goals and objectives with the expansion and renovation program, it's been a long-standing goal of the city of Oklahoma City to secure a major league sports tenant for the arena, and the opportunity did present itself in the fall of 2007. This council was given a preliminary design of the arena and the arena renovation program, as well as a preliminary estimate of what the revenues of a dedicated sales tax might generate. Also, the renovations, we wanted to maximize the patron experience for the facility. We needed to maintain our competitive stature in the marketplace. Obviously, Tulsa had a new building come online. There's a new building that came online in Kansas City. Other facilities were renovating to become state-of-the-art again as they were aging. We needed to ensure the long-term financial stability of our new NBA franchise that we were hoping at the time to acquire, and maintain the financial stability of the Oklahoma City Arena. The funding, as you know, was a 15-month dedicated 1-cent sales tax to renovate and upgrade the arena and to construct an NBA practice facility if we acquired the NBA franchise. Again, these original sales tax estimates were prepared in the fall of 2007, and the vote was approved by city voters on March 4th, 2008. I probably don't need to remind you that during that 15-month period, the sales tax actual collections went through a period of demise and were actually worse than they were during the 1980 oil bust. So it became a very challenging project, but we've been able to successfully manage the project and so far present a program that has been highly successful and meet the expectation of the citizens and patrons and the MBA, as well as our partners in the project, the Thunder, and we anticipate being able to do so as we continue the project. The Oklahoma City Sports Facility Board, this was approved by the council in April of 2000, or I'm sorry, by March 2008. It's a 9-member board, 3 city council members. It's chaired by Councilman Ryan, 6 citizen board members, and they're responsible to monitor, oversee, and make recommendations to the city council regarding design, phasing, and construction of the arena upgrades and practice facility projects. So anytime that you see an item coming to the city council for your consideration, it has been vetted by the Sports Facility Oversight Board. And I must say that they have been very engaged and very diligent in their efforts, and they've been very much appreciated. I would like to give you an overview early on in the project budget status. Again, originally we were projecting $121 million in sales tax in the fall of 2007 when receipts were riding relatively high. We ended up with interest of 104.8 in sales tax. We plan to use in the budget $8.4 million in the sports facility use tax, which is dedicated for the sports facility projects. And additionally, the Thunder is responsible to reimburse us for the build-out of their office space, which will be a component in the arena. So we're looking at a total of about $113.6 million. At this point, including the bids that we just received for basically the final phases of the arena, the major phases, we're looking at $92 million for the arena renovation and expansion, $16.2 million for the practice facility, which originally was anticipated it would cost about $20 million. We had $49,000 on a line of credit. When we started up the program, we took out a $5 million line of credit. If you'll recall, the team was released from the city of Seattle in July, and we had basketball coming up in the fall of 2008, so we had just a couple of months to get things going, and we had very little time to do so, so we took out a short-term line of credit, and there was a little bit of interest to pay. And I would point out, in both the arena renovations and practice facility construction, there's a 5% contingency built into those two budgets for the remaining projects. And then we've got an additional 5% contingency of $1.8 million. So total, we've got a 10% contingency built in for the remaining projects in the event that we run into unforeseen circumstances. So we're looking at a total of approximately $110.2 million. We've got an estimated fund balance of $3.4 million. Now, that looks pretty good, but we want to proceed in a very conservative manner, or conservative approach, even though we've got that 10% contingency, and there are a couple of issues that are out there. One is that we're currently in negotiations for additional A&E services because the project and the redesign of the arena in order to bring it back into budget is pushing the program out longer. Additional A&E services are going to be needed to monitor the construction through its completion, and that's not been negotiated yet. That's in process. Finally, if we do have remaining funds at the end of the project, we don't want to increase the scope of work now. We want to wait until we get close to the end of the project, see if there are remaining funds left, and then consider possibly adding amenities to the project. So we don't want to expand the scope of work too early. We want to look and see how we come out at the end of Phase C before we even consider any additional embellishments. Yes?
With respect to contingency, maybe specifically on the NBA practice facility, if it exists, can we, if we choose to, at some point in the future, use any of those funds for a maintenance fund for that facility?
That feels, so that facility really has a built-in maintenance fund. All of the rent that is paid by the Thunder to the city goes into a dedicated maintenance fund to help do capital. The Thunder's responsible for all routine day-to-day operations and that kind of thing.
That's a sufficient revenue base.
I expect that it will be, yes. Just a little bit where we've been. One of the first things that we did was reconfigure the I-40 Robinson Street off-ramp. As you can see on the left side of the screen is the original off-ramp. We needed to reclaim that land for the eventual southwest expansion of the arena, and so it was redesigned to become more of a T designed interchange, and that work has been, of course, accomplished. Early start projects, again, this was in the summer of 2008. We got basketball equipment, including a new floor. We did some renovations of the restrooms, added a new pub on the event level floor. We did some upgrades with IT and camera wiring and some game lighting upgrades. There's obviously, this is very familiar to most people in Oklahoma City that have watched a game or been in the arena. There's the new floor. This is what the restrooms in the arena looked like before, and we like to say that we went from high school to Hyatt, and this is what they look like afterwards. And what I really like is we've got equity in this. The restrooms look like this on the 100 level, and they also look like this on the 300 level, where you can buy a $10 ticket. Those are the event level restrooms. There's the event level pub. In the summer of 2009, we closed down and did upgrades to the arena seating and added terrace clubs. We totally redid the 300 level concourse. We did the first phase of the locker room build out. Did the courtside club, suite upgrades, added bunker suites, did broadcast and IT upgrades, added point of sale equipment, new scoreboard, scorer's table, media table, and added a whole lot of flat screen TVs. The seating upgrade here was really important. Although we made incremental improvements to the seating and comfort throughout the arena, the telescopic seating in the facility, they were really uncomfortable, and it was unfortunate because this was an area which typically, whether it's a concert or a basketball game, they were some of the most uncomfortable seats in the building. Now they've been replaced with the seats on the right, which are faux leather. They're wider. They give you more leg room. And on one side of the arena, they're actually they're retractable by automation, so we can save a lot of labor in setup, teardown time. This is another example of flexibility. We blew out suites on both ends of the arena and added terrace suites, which are, we've got terrace suites that accommodate 6 or 8. It's kind of a hybrid between a traditional suite and a club seat. And then there's terrace seating below that area, and above are terrace club areas.
This is the 300-level concourse. Prior to the renovations, it was really almost cave-like. It was very dark, and afterwards we ground down the concrete floor to agate and sealed it, added color to it, put in a lot of lighting, painted all of the ceiling surfaces, put flat panel TVs, and it's a lot livelier, much more enjoyable. This is the courtside club on the event level. Here's another example of flexibility. When the arena first opened, we had a dirt event, and this was a storage area, and we actually used it to store livestock. And after that, we're
not doing that now.
No. After that, this turned into an arena football locker room. When we temporarily were the home for the New Orleans Hornets for 2 seasons, this turned into their locker room. And now this area has been renovated into arguably the premier courtside club in the NBA. Also during the summer of '99, we went through and did a total upgrade of all the suites on the 200 level. And this is an example of one of 9 bunker suites that are located on the event level. Broadcast and media control room up on the press level. Before this was added, we actually had to have a broadcast truck brought in for us to present games on cable TV. So this also controls the scoreboard, video board. It's a tremendous amenity and asset for the facility. There's the new scoreboard. Actually, we took, just note, the old scoreboard, we didn't just scrap. We took the panels out and used those as end boards inside the arena, and then the remaining shell we dispatched to the Norick Arena at State Fair Park for reuse, and they're using that arena. It had some work done to it, and they're using that at that facility. In the summer of 2010, we closed again, did concession stands renovations, did an administrative office for the arena staff, which we had never had before, did a team store and added some furniture, fixtures, and equipment. This is a new team store on the northwest part of the facility. If you haven't been in there, I encourage you to visit. It's outstanding. In the center there, the checkout stand, they actually can project videos of the game and other elements while it's playing, so you don't miss a minute of the game while you're in shopping. We did open bids on the largest and basically the final stages of the arena on January 19th. The estimate with all of the alternates was about $40 million. The total for all 3 of the bids came in at about 36. So we had about a 10% budgeted savings, which was very welcome news. We're expecting to start exterior construction and excavation in March. They'll be able to work on the exterior of the building while the remainder of the Thunder season is in progress. Then we'll close down the arena after the end of the Thunder season and start on the interior renovations on the first floor concourse. We plan to put terrazzo down, do wall finishes, have new ceiling treatments. There'll be a lot more audio, video, LED treatments, and there'll be the expansion on the southwest side, and be building that out. This is a little bit of, shows you about what will happen. There'll be an expansion to the locker room of about 2,000 square feet, and to the right of your screen you'll see part of an expansion of storage space. This is on the event level of about 15,000 square feet. On the entry level, all of the red areas are going to be existing areas that are going to receive new treatments or facelifts. The green areas are new areas. On this level, we will be adding a new restaurant to the right of the new Southwest Grand entry. There'll be a new club on the left, and there'll be an ancillary ticket box office right there. There'll be a children's fun zone, which was kept in the project. Also, the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame will be granted generous space on this level, and they'll have a revolving exhibit in the arena that celebrates Oklahoma's rich sports history, and they're very thrilled to have this space in the building. Again, all of the concourse, the first floor concourse, will be completely renovated. It'll be a real exciting area, very vibrant and very fresh. And of course, this concourse, this is where we reclaimed the land from the redesign of the I-40 off-ramp. Rendering of the new southwest atrium with some of the vertical transportation. Rendering of the new bar just to the left of the entrance, and the restaurant to the right. On the club level, we are going to be adding a roof terrace just to the right of the entrance, and there'll be a new atrium landing to the right and left, and there'll be remodeling of both the club level restaurants. And that's a rendering of one of the remodeled restaurants. Upper level, and this is kind of gets into some of the value engineering we did. The arena was, on this addition, going to be 5 stories high, and one of the ways that we were able to save money is we pushed the funders' offices down a floor. So instead of being 5 stories high, it's going to be 4 stories high. So the first floor of their office is going to be on level 3 in the new space. And so there'll be a plate with office space on level 3 in the new areas. We'll also be renovating the food court. And then on the mezzanine level, this will be the remainder of the Thunder space. And this will give you an idea of what the exterior video board will look like. It's planned to be on the northwest portion of the facility. We're going to stub out so that a LED video board could be added at a later time on the south side of the facility as well. To be honest, a marquee is something that we have desired for the arena for a long, long time to promote upcoming events and for other purposes. I recall during the playoffs last year when the Thunders were playing the Lakers, they actually rented an exterior video board and played the games for folks in Thunder Alley. So they could be using this for that purpose as well. Go on to the next one. This is a shot of the southwest expansion from Robinson. Another rendering, and from approximately where the new boulevard will be. And again, just to summarize, even though we've been challenged financially with the lower than anticipated sales tax, with the value engineering, we feel that we've been able to provide an end product that meets the expectations of the citizens. It meets the technical requirements of the NBA and the expectations of the Thunder. And I believe that it's a project that, to date, everyone has been exceptionally impressed with. A lot of the NBA teams that have come here have been very envious of, and I have no reason to doubt that through its completion that it's going to be an asset that we'll be very proud of. And I'll be pleased to answer any questions.
Tom, how will NBA fans be affected for the rest of this season?
They will not be affected at all. We're going to be doing excavation on the southwest side, and
will that one entrance be shut off?
No. There will be, none of the existing entrances are going to be impacted.
Okay. And then, so during the off-season, obviously, the arena will not be open. It'll be
Correct.
major construction. And then next year, how will fans of the NBA be affected?
Well, we're on a very tight schedule, so we're going to try to get as much done as possible this season. Next summer, if there's elements that we don't complete, we're not going to shut down, but we might have to finish up after the NBA season between concerts and other events.
Okay.
So I think we're going to be okay.
Will the building expansion to the southwest be open during the season next year, or will that be open after?
It likely will be open.
Okay.
We don't,
Just
we're
hard
just
to
going to have to
say.
see, we're going to have to see about the schedule.
Just we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Mayor, Tom, this is not a question directly related to the arena expansion, but it is kind of with regard to the overall operations. What's the impact of not having a naming rights payor for the arena right now?
It's of no impact to us. We have a guarantee that we get a flat sum of about $400,000.
We get it whether it has a name or not?
That's correct. So there's, that not being there is a shortcoming to the team and not to us.
So we get the rights and the name?
What's that?
Right now, we get the name, and we're also getting the revenue.
That was really a good negotiation.
Okay. I'm not going to argue with that deal. Yeah, Skip.
Well, just very quickly, and I think some of this was said in the opening of the bids when we did that when we approved the contract for the work to be done. But I've had the privilege of serving on this trust for the last 2.5 years, and I want to thank Councilman Ryan for his leadership. This was a really difficult. Councilman McAtee also serves on that trust, but this has been a complicated project given the fact that we thought we had $120 million and designed a project and ended up with 113, and everybody's worked incredibly hard. But Pat, I just appreciate your leadership so much. I think we've turned out with a great project. And then this is a question that's very strange, but it came up. I was at one of the evening games the other night and went to get something to eat late, and there was an awful lot of food that was left over. And I wanted to just have you check at some point if there was an opportunity we might be able to find a way to donate some of that food to some of our facilities that are always in need.
I think I know the answer to that, but I'd rather double check.
I'm afraid you may know the answer, and that's not the one I want, so I'd like to look at something else.
I got an answer for it. I'll take it home with me.
Yeah, I'll be happy to double check for it.
Any other comments or questions for Tom?
I have
Okay,
one.
Skip.
First of all, thanks for the presentation, and so for the capital presentation of the structure, I would like to talk about the human structure of the facility for what I've experienced. And from the club level, and I'm sure that, people who have probably experienced the other parts of the arena, I just want you all to know that you have probably one of the greatest staffs in reference to dealing with the population of people that they deal with on a weekly basis. They always have a smile on their face. The gatekeepers on the second floor, I mean, you could be mad at the world, and when you get to that second floor, those two ladies and the gentleman there, they can change your whole attitude because they do such a fantastic job of letting you know that you're welcome here and we want you to have a good time. And I have witnessed times where individuals was trying to ease into the club level that didn't have assigned tickets for the club level. And most people could cause a little bit of an agitation, but they are able to really suppress all of that. And so I just want you all to know that, from the food kiosks to all the areas where I've purchased as far as food, and the people's hospitality is just great and fantastic. But I do have one complaint in light of saying all of that, is that you need to get some bigger popcorn machines, because I stood in line for like 15 minutes of the Sunday to get popcorn. And I finally asked the lady, I said, why do we have to wait so long for popcorn? She said, well, we're only able to pop 3 boxes at a time.
And the bad news was that Councilman White and I ate all your popcorn.
Yeah, when I got the bag, the box I had, I brought it back, and Pete took it from me, so I had to go back. So I missed probably about 8 minutes of the 15 minutes of the basketball. It wasn't really a whole
I'll be pleased to
but I
look
think
into
that's
that.
something, but other than that, you guys do a fantastic job up there, and sometimes I think they need to hear that, that their appreciation is really well received in the city.
Thank you for that. I will pass that on, and I need also to thank our partners at the Thunder. They obviously are very integrated into the renovation process and the NBA Development Center, but they also work very closely with our staff in the arena on customer service and relations with SMG. So,
and when you look at the amount of activity and people's engagements in beverages and everything on the club level, the Oklahoma City Police Department, or the security, and those officers that are in uniform, they also need to be recognized for the work they do, because you could easily have a lot of bad things to happen, and the presence of them, and they've always been cordial and decent with communicating with people. So, I think sometimes we need to let the human bodies that's part of the operations of these facilities know how well they're appreciated also.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions for Tom? All right, Tom, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other city manager reports? I notice we have the hotel motel tax collections.
That's on there, and collections are good on that. There's a report on proactive code enforcement, and I think it's great to see the number of violations that are corrected by the property owners, and that's the goal, and I think we're being successful on that. Then also the February sales and use tax collections reported is in the packet. Sales tax is $1.7 million above target, or I'm sorry, above last year. It's about 11.42 above last year's collections, and that's really, really solid. It's very similar to the rate of increase we've seen in the past, but again, we need to be very cautious as we go forward. We talked about some of the increases in the insurance costs and such, and our year-to-date collections this year are just 1.6% above what we had in fiscal year 09, the year-to-date. So I think, we want to just be clear as to what those numbers are. We're in a much better situation than we were last year, but we're still only a little over 1.5% over what we were 2 years ago. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
All right, any questions for the city manager on city manager reports?
Mayor, just a request on the hotel motel tax. We are now exceeding $500,000 in revenue for our event sponsorship, which has to be a tremendous boost to attracting sponsors who receive grants through the tax. I just asked City Manager if he could bring back a report to council as to who are those folks, events benefiting by it.
Be happy to do that, Mr. Bowman.
All right, citizens to be heard. There's one person that signed up. Jeff?
Jeff Bezdek, 605 Northwest 4th. I serve on the MAPS 3 Transit Subcommittee, and I'll be very quick, Your Honor. As a courtesy, the last time I was here, we had a debate, and I think we got some very good things out of that debate, actually, in terms of the intent of the modern streetcar system in the greater downtown Oklahoma City area. There was an article in the paper this morning that alluded to some uncertainty about the route that we're going to be bringing to the MAPS Oversight Board at the end of this month. Subsequently, if it is approved, going to council. So as a courtesy, I was just stopping by today to initiate an invitation with you to go for a car ride with any one of our subcommittee members and actually view the Phase 1A route. The way this thing is timing out, it looks like there may be 3 pieces to it. And we listened to Mr. White and Mr. Bowman and their desire to see a grander master plan. I actually zoomed back and tried to zero in on what the essential pieces in the greater downtown area that MAPS funds could provide, how they fit in a context of a larger system. And, to put it quite simply, we've stretched it. We've done exactly what was asked for, what was suggested, and this first 1A preliminary route is essentially the spine for that larger system. We feel comfortable that we've been very well informed by the other subcommittees and the consultants as to where to cut it off before getting to any potential convention center site locations or the transit hub front door. We don't know where that hub front door is yet, and we don't know exactly where the convention center is going, but that Phase 1A recommendation should allow, if you ratify it, informing the Project 180 process so they can make preparations within their current engineering models and so forth. And then 1C, once we get past 1B and how to connect those two things to get the hub and the convention center to the spine, Phase 1C, we're hoping that we have enough left in reserve to actually get somewhere else. But until we hire an engineer and have some additional professional consulting, we're actually coming to an end of what we can do as volunteers within the current 6-mile, $20 million mile sort of number that's been thrown out there. We've been trying to look at some other technologies for the streetcar, and it's been kind of difficult to get serious information back from vendors on what's out there because we don't have the engineering of where the exact track is going to go and how it fits into the overall context of the system. So, just to convey to you that this first recommendation is coming, we feel completely comfortable with it. 9 out of the 10 subcommittee members are solidly in favor of this 1A piece. The 1B will come in the next few months once we know about the hub and the convention center, and then 1C would be basically trying to get outside of downtown if we have the money to do so, if the engineering and the numbers come back there that are ideal. The master plan in a 1C scenario offers up options to the Plaza District, to 23rd and Classen, to the Paseo, and to the State Capitol. Another thing that we don't know about a 1C sort of concept is what the ridership projections might be and what sorts of issues we might run into on our way out to those other areas sometime in the future. And also one other thing, we're also interested in evaluating the Adventure Line in a little bit more thorough detail and how the Adventure Line intersects with the line going out to Tinker Air Force Base and how that interfaces with the hub. At the end of this month, March 23rd, is our MAPS Transit Subcommittee meeting, March 23rd at 420 Main. The Oversight Board is subsequently on the 24th, and it would go to Council in theory the following Tuesday. We also have a citizens meeting that's coming up regarding the ongoing federal funding process, the alternatives analysis. At the end of this month, there's going to be a date announced for the public to come participate in what's going on there. And again, our subcommittee members have been meeting almost weekly on transit, twice a week, or twice a month officially as a subcommittee, but between the alternatives analysis, the stuff going on with the hub, the convention center subcommittee meetings, you wouldn't believe the thousands of hours that people are putting in trying to come up with answers for you. Thank you.
And we have executive session. We'll be back.